The ZV-E10 is a APS-C style sensor camera from Sony, and it's a compact body. And if you're looking to get this compact body in the water down to 200 feet in a compact housing, check out our DLM style housing that we have here. I'm going to walk you through how I have mine configured and how to put it all together. Firstly, I have chosen the 16-35 PZ style lens. I've been a big fan of this as of late. The first thing I'm going to do before I get too far down the line is I'm going to add the anti-reflection sticker. You'll notice that if you look at the face of this lens that they have very predominant white lettering. This can very easily result in light coming in through your port, bouncing off these letters, hitting the inside of the port, and then back into your image. So we want to avoid that as much as we can. So let's go ahead and add that now before we forget and shoot a bunch and find out that we did not add it later. Take the anti-reflection ring, remove it from the backing. And adding these, I like to choose a spot, in this case the diameter marking of 72. I will take the peak of the ring, place it into there, tag it down, and then just gently walk it around the circumference of the circle. And now I have that in place, and I don't have to worry about that again. Take our lens and we'll set it to the side for right now. Let's turn our attention to the housing itself. If we put the housing down on its port mount, you'll notice there are two locking levers on each side, one locking lever on each side. It has a lock release that you push in and lift up. Same thing on the other side. And then take those and lift them over the hooks of the back. It will allow you to remove the back like so, which we will take over here, set it to the side for right now. If you look inside of the housing, you'll notice there's a camera mount that can be slid out. This camera mount features a 1/4-20 mounting screw. That will correspond to the 1/4-20 mounting hole on your camera. We'll line those two up. We're going to use a flat-headed screwdriver. And we are going to tighten that camera mount to the camera body. This is the point that you want to make sure it's nice and snug. Any movement that occurs between these two pieces will translate to misalignment in your controls. Don't need to over tighten it, but you do want to make sure that it's nice and snug. You'll notice that there is a slot in the base of the housing. Make sure no controls are in your way. Lens release, on off. Take your camera, slide it down into place. Turn your attention to your back. Now you'll notice that the back is not only clear, that lets you see this O-ring, but this O-ring always takes an outside curve. It's never going in an inside channel. This makes it a very reliable system where the O-ring won't want to pop out on you. Also, this is a compression seal. This means that you don't have to use lubricant on this O-ring. As a matter of fact, I don't recommend using lubricant because that will just attract any debris. So if you do need to clean this O-ring or the sealing surface, simply remove it, run your fingers across the sealing surface, checking for any debris. You'll also notice that you'll feel it sometimes before you can see it. Same thing with the O-ring, just make sure there's nothing on it. And to replace the O-ring, put it back onto the back, following those outside curves. Turn your attention here to the sealing surface of the housing itself, also making sure you don't have any hair or debris here. Line the back up with the front, set it into place. And then take both of your locking lid snaps, place them over the hooks of the back, and then simultaneously you can press down and you'll hear them click into place. Do a double check, make sure that when you lift up on them that they don't come open. That's the lock working. Same thing on the other side. Now let's talk about installing the lens, the gear sleeve to zoom it, and the port. So we've already installed the anti-reflection ring on our lens. So let's go ahead and install the gear sleeve. We'll set our housing so that the port mount is facing up. We're going to take our lens and we're going to take our gear sleeve. You notice on the gear sleeve it says front with an arrow. That's going to face away from the camera body. What you're going to want to do is take this, slide it onto, it's an interference friction fit. So just gently walk it around and slide it all the way forward. You'll notice there's a white mounting dot on the lens. There is also a white mounting dot on your camera body. Remove the body cap from your camera body. The cap off the back of your lens. That white dot and that white dot are going to line up. Bayonet it on just like you would any normal lens. Take that gear sleeve, push it down into the port mount, And now we can attach the port. Attaching the port is simple. We're going to use some Ikelite lubricant on this seal. This is a piston seal, meaning that the lubricant will be used to overcome the friction. So what we're going to do is take a little bit of that lubricant on your fingertips, and you're going to run it around the O-ring of the port mount. What you want to do is apply that lubricant so it's shiny, but you're also feeling for any debris here. Turn your attention to the port. You'll make sure that you don't have any hair, and that all 3 thumb screws are backed out and not protruding to the inside diameter here. Again, run your finger along this sealing surface here, checking for debris, and you're also applying a little bit of that lubricant. Now, there's no wrong way to put this port on as far as its placement, but I like to have the drive gear off to my left-hand side, which will be over here. That way I can keep my hand on the shutter and then my drive gear on the left. Slide your port over, and then simply glide it down into place until you feel it bottom out. At that point, tighten the 3 thumb screws to their finger tight. You don't want to over tighten these. These thumb screws are not creating the seal. The seal would have occurred when the 2 pieces went together. This keeps the port from getting pulled off. Now we can take our housing, set it down at its bottom. Now, accessories you can add to the dual train handle, which I do like to do. It provides not only 2 handles, but 2 mounting points for strobes or lighting. Also, when we do that, I want to add an extension here personally so that that lever comes out to my right hand with the handles in play. In order to do so, we're just simply going to loosen the 2 thumb screws that are in the lever, 1 on each side. I like to do this before we put the train handle on. Take your extension, make sure that the set screw is not protruding inside to the diameter here. Where you put this set screw doesn't matter, so I like to put it in a place that's easy for me to get to. In this case, it'll go on top. And then snug that down. Again, no need to over tighten, but you do want it to be snug. And at this point, you have an octagonal shape to this extension, as well as the lever, so it gives you some choices on kind of where you want it. And this is a personal preference thing. For me, it's going to be looking like about here, I'd say. So I'm going to go ahead and put that lever on, and I'm going to tighten both of the thumb set screws down. Again, making sure they're relatively snug without overdoing it. Okay, now we have our housing assembled. It's waterproof. We have an extension with our lever. We're going to add the train handle to this. In order to do so, I like to take the housing, I like to put it upside down. You'll notice on the bottom of the train handle that there are 2 holes here. That's what we're going to be using for the mounting locations. And then also you have quick release buttons for your strobe arms. I'm going to have those facing me as the user, so it's going to look something like that. And then what I like to do is take one of the shoulder washers and screws, align it, and I like to get the threads started into the bottom mounting hole of the housing. And before I tighten that down, it'll make it easier on me if I leave it loose and go ahead and get the other side started. Okay. Now that you have both sides started, go ahead and snug up both sides using your flat-headed screwdriver. Now you have your train handle attached, dual train handle, your extension, so it makes it a very comfortable reach for when you're actuating the shutter button. So from this point, there are a few more accessories that I would add that we won't cover in this video, but I do want to cover them real quick as far as what you can choose. You'll notice that if you take a close look at the housing, you have a half 20 port plugged here, an M16 port plugged here, and another half 20 port plugged here on the side. I would add an Ikelite bulkhead that leads to a hot shoe, so that way I can trigger my strobes from this location. I would add our USB-C bulkhead here. That would allow me to recharge my camera and offload images without ever having to open the housing. I never have to take it open, take it apart, recharge a battery. I can do that all through a USB-C cable through this port. And I would add a vacuum valve to the location here on the side. That would allow me to create a vacuum inside the housing that would reinforce all of the closing mechanisms, and it would ensure that I didn't forget an O-ring or anything simple during the procedure of assembly. We'll have links to those videos in the description below, but if you have any questions whatsoever, drop us a comment down below, or feel free to shoot us an email to ikelite@ikelite.com.